Alright guys, what up? Back for another one. Today we are going to be doing the GlowShift wideband. So I'll take you in here. So as you can see my gauge panel here. Like I said, I'm gonna show you guys how I wired all this up. Let me get it unplugged. And then we will pop this bad boy out. Oops. Didn't mean to pop all that out. That's not what I meant to do. Not what I wanted. There we go. So we pull this out, pull all the wiring with it, and there we have it. So what we need to do now is set this here. We need to drill another hole here with the hole saw so that we can super glue this little 45 degree, the same thing as those. Like I said, and these come with every GlowShift gauge, so if you wanted to make this for yourself, you most definitely could. But we're basically going to put it right there. Yeah, like that right there. And yeah, looks like I'm going to have to do some sanding on this side to make it all fit, because that hangs over. Let me show you guys. That hangs over quite a bit there, but I think we can make it work. Yeah, I think we can make it work. We'll figure it out. Okay, all right, so what I'm doing here is I got this kind of held in place right where I want it, and I'm gonna use my little pick tool to scribe where I want my hole to be. So it's not perfect, but it looks something like that. You guys can see it. I went out a little bit out, but I know it's this inside line. And then I'm gonna use my hole saw, and I will tell you exactly what size you need. This is the hole saw right here. So these gauges are 52 millimeter. You would think, oh, I'll drill 52 millimeter hole, no big deal. But because they sit at an angle, they don't fit with a 52 millimeter. So you have to use a 54 millimeter hole saw to drill your hole in your piece if you want them to sit at the angle, at an angle with this little thing. So that's what I'm gonna do next, and then I'll get back to you guys. Okay, so I drilled the hole. It's not perfect. As you can see, it's definitely closer to that edge than it is that edge, but that doesn't matter as long as it's on the piece. What you're gonna do is you're gonna take your, let me set this somewhere where you guys can actually see, maybe. You're gonna take your bezel, and you're gonna put it where you want it, and you're going to super glue this in place, and then you're gonna flip it over and sand away the edges that need sanding away. So that's what I'm gonna do now. All right, excuse the disaster of a toolbox that I have going on here. I need to clean this thing out, but brand new, I think brand new. Oh, maybe not brand new. No, definitely pre-opened thing of super glue here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab this, hold it where I want it in place, and then actually, before I do that, let's prep this surface. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of sandpaper and sand down the edge, the lip of this bezel. And what this does is, if you ever did like pottery in school, and you know how they'd like, okay, to join two pieces of clay together, you gotta like score them. And that's what you're doing. You're just scoring this and giving the glue somewhere to go. And there's a bunch of, obviously, there's texture on this that's not a huge deal. Trust me, it's going to hold. But I just like to score that as some extra security. So once I feel like this is where I want it, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take some super glue. Again, get this where I want it. And I like to glue the inside of the gauge, personally. You don't need a lot, just a little bit. To hold this in place. and I'm just holding it with my fingers flush with the top and the bottom of this plate that I made. So once that's kind of set there, I can go in here and continue gluing the rest of this. And there we go. So that's nice and glued now. I'm just gonna let this sit and dry for a few minutes, and then what we'll do is we'll actually flip it over. Should be held there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna flip it over, and we're actually gonna sand the inside of this to make the hole the size that we need. And then I'm gonna have to sand, as you guys can see, this sticks up quite a bit, which won't fit in my plate, so I'm gonna have to sand this down. And it might look a little funky, but it'll still do its job and serve its purpose. So I had to sand this one down actually. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it just is what it is. With if I had to put those gauges in here like flush square, they would have fit perfectly, no problem at all. There you go. That's on there now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the gauge right here, and I'm just gonna put it in place and see where it hits. And right off the bat, I can see that it's hitting up here, where obviously, like I said, I cut down here too much, didn't cut up here enough. So first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna pull the gauge back out, take some sandpaper, and this is I think 80 grit, and we're gonna knock off this bottom. So hey, so we're sitting flush now, as you can see. Sitting flush. That's gonna be a tight squeeze into there, because that's, I don't know, we'll see. Now all I gotta do is grind down this edge so that it's flush. So basically what I did is I pulled this out of my dash. It's not, because it's not screwed in or anything. And I don't know if you guys can see that, but right here, I'm having to trim out just so the gauge can clear. By the way, whoop, these are those 3D printed parts from GregParts. Like I said, they literally bolt, screw right into the factory spots. This one goes over over yonder, like so. Like that, screws right in. Get the idea. Back to what I was doing. All right, so we got everything trimmed away. It was a lot, but the gauges are now in the car. Sorry, you guys are on my big tripod. I didn't feel like switching everything out, but let me show you guys what I had to trim out here. Oh, no, don't want to do that. I guess we can, it doesn't matter. Pull the gauge out, why not, whatever. Reach in here. This is just a pressure fit plate that I did. So, I don't know how well you guys are gonna see this, but I trimmed all of this out. See that there was a lip there, and that lip's gone, and that was just so the back edge of the gauge would clear right here, but now it clears just fine. And these just press in there like that, just presses in there like that, and then the gauges go in there like that. Super solid, and they are sitting at an angle facing towards me, which I really like. Oh, I'm super stoked on this, guys. I'm super stoked on the way that turned out. That looks so good. All right, let me get you guys set back up over here. This is the wiring that I had before. As you guys can see, I have, this orange wire is for your headlight circuit. You don't have to hook this up. Basically all this is for is like when you flip your headlights on, the gauges dim a little bit. It's not a super necessity for me. So I just have these kind of zip tied together. Your red is your constant 12 volt power. Your yellow is your ignition switched power. And then your black is your ground. And that's on all GlowShift gauges. If I pull out this one, I think this is the power. If I'm not mistaken, this is the power cord here. And as you can see on this one, it has a red, a black, a yellow, and an orange. And this is not the power. So this is the power out of the box. I got it. Okay, I got it now. Yeah, alright, so that goes into there. So this is going to be wired up a little differently to how I did these. So how I did these two is, I'll show you this. I took both of the yellows and reds and crimped them to a spade connector, and then I just took both blacks and crimped them to a spade connector, and I used the your cigarette lighter plug. You can literally just 2 spade connectors. That is a switched ignition source. So when you turn the key off, it goes off. When you turn the key on, it turns on. So it is perfect. Like I said, you can just do the yellow and the red together. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut this heat shrink off and just cut this little bit of spade connector off. I might just cut it off and be able to slide the heat shrink off. Anyway, basically just going to cut the little spade connector off, and then I'm going to tie in these 3, because obviously I don't need the red. I'm going to peel back some of this protective sleeving. I'm going to mount this in the car where I need it, and then we're going to go mount everything, wire everything together so that they all meet together here and all meet together here, and they all run off the same thing. They all run off of that switched ignition. Get into the car. Let's get this mounted. How I'm going to mount this is wrong drawer, Tyler. This one. Nope. Wrong one again. I have some double-sided like foam tape, and I'm just going to put maybe 2 pieces or 1 big piece. I don't know. Maybe it'll probably be 2 pieces, 1 here and 1 here, and I'm going to stick it where my my SRS box used to be. So there is a little shelf. I will take you guys into the car with me. Give me just a second here. So it's this box right there. So basically what I'm gonna do, just give me just a second. I'm trying to do everything with basically double-sided tape, and it's gonna basically sit like that. I might turn it 90 degrees so there's no wires going towards the firewall, but virtually that's how that's gonna sit. So I'm gonna do that right now, and then we're gonna get everything measured up. That little connector right there, you guys can see that is your cigarette lighter. As you can see, just a couple of shit. Maybe you guys can't see. Okay, there we go. There we go. So as you can see, it's just a couple of empty slots right there. Spade connectors fit perfectly into those. Alright, and we're back. So what I did is I got the control module stuck into the car on that where the factory SRS box mounts. SRS box. Got it. Say that 10 times fast. Fuck. And then basically I just plugged this in and then measured to where I wanted it to meet up with the cigarette lighter, and I gave myself plenty of extra in case I decide to move the control module to another location. Not that I think I will, but just in case. And then I just cut the wire off. And now what I'm going to do is use an X-Acto blade to trim off this this coating. So there we go. That should be plenty of wire exposed. And we're going to cut off all that crap we don't need. And there we go. So again, you're not going to use the orange. You're just going to use the red and the yellow and the black. just like over here. So what I'm going to grab is my wire strippers. We're just going to strip down the red, the yellow, and the black. Twist all those up. We're going to come over here. Since we cut these ends off, we're going to have to restrip these. So we got the yellow on this one, the red on this one. Not sure what gauge this goes to. Doesn't really matter actually. Then we got red on this one, yellow on that one. Twist those up, twist those up. And then what we're going to do is we're actually just going to twist these two together, pull them straight, and then we're going to twist those two together. And then we're going to pull over the other red and yellows. We're going to line those up. Actually, we'll twist these two together first. And we'll twist all of these together. Now, we're going to take these red and yellows, twist these two together, take all of that, twist all of that together. So basically you have a big clusterfuck of wires here. But before I do that actually, before we twist those together, well, you need to find the heat shrink actually that fits over your connector. That's the goal here. I don't remember which one it is. You're going to be using these red connectors. The red, which is for the 22 to 16 gauge. So all these wires are 22 gauge. So I act like I've done this before. Okay, there we go. So that fits over the connector nicely. What we're going to do is we're just going to cut it basically in half. We're going to put a piece over these wires. And we're also going to put a little piece over. No, actually, we'll just do it over all three. We'll just do it over all of them. So take this. Twist all of these together. Get your piece of heat shrink. Slide the heat shrink over all the wires. Once you get the connector on there, you're going to use the back half back here. To crimp said connector. And those wires aren't going anywhere. We slide our heat shrink up and over all those. So it's nice and neat. And then we grab our little torch right here. And shrink it on. And we're done with the power side of the circuit. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the grounds and we're going to do the same thing with the ground wires. Put a piece of heat shrink. Make sure this is the right size that fits over the, yeah, okay, that's it. Take a piece of heat shrink over all the wires. Take, this time we are using the red connector here. Between the handles here. We're going to crimp that that down. Those wires aren't going nowhere. Slide your heat shrink over and heat it up with a torch and watch it shrink down. I love heat shrink. And that's it. That's how I wire my gauges. So now I have all the powers together. I have all the grounds together. The oranges I don't use. Feel free to use them. It's just a personal preference of mine that I do not use them. So now we should have all of our wiring to go to and fro here. So let's get into the car. Let's see if it works. All right, so just a rough setup. I got everything hooked up. Everything's plugged in. Obviously it's not routed the way it's supposed to. My gauges are sitting down there. But if we flip the key on, you will see that we have power to all three gauges. The wideband blinks. I'm assuming that's because I got to calibrate it and there's no O2 sensor or anything hooked up to it, and the controller's probably freaking out. But yeah, I have power to all three gauges. So, alright, so I got everything mounted back correctly. Wires are mostly tucked. You can see a couple of wires right there. I just got to zip tie all those together. Get them up, coil them up out of the way. But again, we turn the key, power to all three gauges, and again the wideband blinks, and I think that's because it doesn't have an O2 sensor hooked up to it. And but yeah, like you can, I love these gauges because you can switch all the colors. So if you like red gauges, you can do red gauges. You can even have them. That one? No. Nope. You can have them blink, you can have them fade. So it fades from color to color to color. I just prefer the blue gauges. But yeah, that's it. It's all wired up. I just gotta clean it up a little bit and install the O2 sensor and plug the O2 sensor into the control module and calibrate everything per GlowShift's instructions, and that'll be it. Alright guys, I appreciate you tuning in for another episode. That's going to be it for this one. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss a video that I drop. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you really liked it, share it. That would be awesome. And until next time, I'm out.